So can you start off by telling us your name and spelling it for us?
My name is Doris Krause, Krause.
And Doris, what's your connection to Kent State?
My daughter Allison attended Kent State.
And maybe you can tell us about Allison.
Well, what can I tell you? I can tell you how she got here. Maybe you'd like to know that. We lived in the Cleveland area. Both my daughters were born in Cleveland. And very often we like to take drives on Sunday in the surrounding area. And we would very often come to Kent and have dinner at a restaurant here called Robin Hood, I think it was. And we saw the campus, and it was such a nice place. And then we moved away, and life went on, and my husband found a job in Pittsburgh, and we knew we were going to be transferred, but we didn't know where yet. There were several places we could go. And we thought, well, Allison was going to college then. She was set to go, and she had to decide where. And we happened to think about Kent because we still had relatives in Cleveland, and no matter where we were, she'd be close to relatives. So she applied to Kent and got accepted, and she was invited into the honors program. So that was the reason she came here, of all the colleges. So what else did you want to know?
Well, maybe you can take us through the events of May 4th from your perspective.
Okay, we didn't. First of all, I have to tell you that we did transfer, and we did live in Maryland. It was a Maryland suburb of Washington, D.C., and it was an area where almost everybody was involved with the government. And so it was like even the children were knowledgeable about what was going on in the world. And my daughters went to school with everybody connected to the government, children of ambassadors. And they were much more aware, I think, than the average child. And so they had a good knowledge about the world as such through the eyes of young people. And now I've lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this? Do you want to help me?
Well, I asked you about your experience of the events.
Oh, yes, thank you. So she was naturally interested in what was going on in Vietnam and all that. And so she apparently was part of the demonstration, and not anything to do with what was going on in town, but on the campus. And she called home on Sunday night, and she talked to my husband, and he warned her. He said, something's going on there, you have to be careful. So she said, well, she wasn't going into the town or anything. She thought she'd be all right. And so the next day was Monday, and I was at work, and so was my husband. Lori was in school. And I got a call from Lori at work that the neighbors had spoken to her and said that the newspapers were trying to get a hold of us and that we should call Kent, and that something happened to Allison. They didn't know what. So well, she called me, Lori called me, and I raced home, and I called the newspapers, somebody who had called me, and they told me that Allison had been taken to a hospital in Kent, in Ravenna, Ohio. And that's about all we knew, and called my husband, who worked maybe about 25 miles away from home, and somebody brought him home because he was in no position to drive. He didn't know what was going on, very upset. And so we all went together, his friend, Arthur, and I, and Lori, and we got in the car and we went to Ravenna. And when we walked into the hospital, no, before we walked into when I was still home, I tried to call the hospital to find out how Allison was. And couldn't get through. And then finally I said that who I was Allison's mother. Would you please help me? Tell me how Allison is. And they said, oh, she arrived DOA. And that's how I found out about what happened to Allison. We got to the hospital. There were townspeople in the lobby at the hospital. And I could hear murmurings and people saying they should have got more. And And they told me directly that the kids were killed in crossfire between the children and the government and the militia, which of course was far from the truth. And after that, we saw Allison, and we just went home after that. There wasn't anybody from the school to help us, to tell us really what happened, how it happened. No representative was there. So we went back home. And then that was on a Monday. And we knew that there had, within a day, there was an announcement that children would be off the campus until perhaps Thursday, I think they said. I'm not quite sure what the date was. So we decided that we would go back to Kent and pick up all of Allison's belongings and be out of there before the kids came back. So we did go within a day or so, and we tried to get into her room, and there was a whole big group of guardsmen and a tank on the campus. Put their hands up, we couldn't go. And my husband said, well, we're going to go. And then at that time, there was a professor who came up and said, I'll show you how to get to her dorm. And so we went there and gathered up all her clothes, all her belongings, and took them home. And her funeral was that Friday. So that's how it all started.
Did you ever expect something like that to happen?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Why? Why would they do that? And you know how you find things out afterwards. And I learned that there were only 2 states in the United States that could carry that the militia could carry loaded weapons. And Ohio was one of them. So.
And when did you find out that it wasn't crossfire, that it was just the National Guard?
Well, you learn things slowly. Pieces fit together. And so we did learn that, but nobody there to help us learn that. And it was just a matter of people who came forward and who tried to help us. And we had some wonderful, wonderful people come to help us with many, many things. My husband couldn't let go of the situation. He had to find out what happened and to correct whatever he could in the future. And so it was very difficult for him to stop what he was doing, and he wanted to know the truth, and he wanted to know why she was killed. And that took many years. And we had to go to the Supreme Court for them to decide that we could sue the state of Ohio. And that was one of the steps we took. And what we ended up with was an apology of sorts from the guard that was on this station. It never should have happened. Part of their words. And what my husband insisted on was everybody who was on that hill sign the document that they should always remember what they did and what they were responsible for. And that was what we fought for a long time. But still, the truth itself has never come out. Who gave the order to shoot? How could so many men shoot in unison without an order to go up a hill and turn around and shoot? Did they all have the same idea at the same time? Nobody has ever owned up to giving an order. Brave men, but they couldn't honestly tell us what happened. So we're still looking for that. And that's why Lori feels so compelled to do this. What else can I tell you?
Did anyone from the government or the school ever reach out to you to try to help you understand what happened?
Well, Ted Kennedy was one. He gave us the use of his office to find out many things. Not my state representative. who was of great help to us was Reverend John Adams, who was head of the social concerns of the United Methodist Church. He had offices in Washington. And from the beginning, he was there for us. What he did, not just for us, for all the families that were involved. And he put us all together. Everybody could relate to him, whereas maybe we couldn't relate to each other. So he was our guiding man, and we went through all the steps with him through the court, trying to get information, and be ever grateful for him. He's in heaven somewhere. Well, anyway, I still feel, like my daughter says to me, don't feel bitter. Don't show that you're bitter. But I am bitter about this school. They never called to notify me, never ever, to this day, have I heard from them about what happened, where she was. Went to the hospital, nobody there to tell us what happened, to help us in any way, in any shape, never. The only thing they ever did for us, not for me, for Allison, they sent her a check of a return of her tuition, her partial tuition. And that's the part the school played in it. The administration, I should say. I'm not really saying that there weren't professors that were helpful and everything, but I'm talking about the administration, the people in power.
Who do you think is responsible for what happened to Allison?
Well, quite a few people. First of all, Governor Rhodes. This was early March. And primaries in Ohio are in March. And he was running for re-election as governor. That played a big part in it. He had to show that he was tough and law and order. And of course Nixon had his hand in too, calling them a day or two before it, that these were nothing but bums on the campus there, people who filtered in. And the administration here, they could have put up a stronger fight to keep the guard away. They could, I was told that they couldn't close down the school, but they could have closed classes. That wasn't done. Not at the time, not when it was at its height. They were closed after the event.
What do you think needs to be done to answer for what happened?
Pardon?
What do you think needs to be done now to answer for what happened?
That's a good question. I think it's for minds greater than mine. I think, just wish you could say not to let little men in big jobs. Doesn't work. But that's hard to steer clear of. And of course, we still haven't learned lessons about war. And what were we doing in Vietnam? What were we doing in all these places where we don't belong? Every day on TV, you see a picture of a beautiful man who was shot that day in Afghanistan. And I find it hard to find a reason why. So I don't think we have learned very much.
What do you think would be helpful for you to heal?
Nothing will change me the way I am today. This is a gradual process of what I've become. But along the way, there were so many kind and thoughtful people who reached out to help us. I don't want to overlook them. It came from many, many different places. And so many people who let us know that they thought they should have got more. So it was good and bad, but a lot of the good.
What do you want people to know about Allison?
She was a thinking person. She was a teenager, But she thought about things in the world, was concerned about people. She volunteered at an institution for people with brain damage. And she would go there at night and play basketball with them. And her biggest day that she had was when she came home and told us that one of the men talked to her, and he hadn't talked to anybody in a long period of years. And that she was so gratified by that. So she had potential. She was a smart girl. And it was just cut down. I'm very lucky I have another one. Anything else?
What do you hope people learn from what happened to Allison?
I don't know. Where do you start to change things in the way people think? I don't know. Keep your children close? That's not the answer. And it's hard to pick out the right people for government also, so it's not an easy situation.
Do you think something like this could happen again?
Oh, absolutely. What would change? Men are still men. What would change? People in power still want to stay in power at any cost. I hope, and I think maybe, I'm not sure, that they've changed the law that people can't come, that the National Guard cannot carry live bullets. That may be one thing that came out of it. It was only allowed in 2 states, and I think perhaps now they've outlawed it anywhere. That bullet was a very, very powerful bullet.
What would the truth coming out now mean to your family?
It would mean a great deal because there are very, very few people who really know the truth. Only the people who were interested in finding the truth. But there's so many people out there that still believe that they were attacking the guard, that the guard was in fear of their lives, and so they shot. But then again, of course, it's faded. The whole thing is faded, and there aren't as many people interested in it, but the truth is always a good thing. Why not correct the school books, the textbooks, what really happened that day? That's part of what we want. That nowhere do I want to see it written that the children had guns or ridiculous things like that, because I've heard it all.
What does it mean for you to be back on this campus?
It's very difficult. I really don't like coming here. I'm going to come here because it's the 40th and Laurie's here, and I just want to put it out of my mind as much as I can. I don't like coming here at all. You know, life goes on for all these graduates, and it's wonderful. And Allison, who might have had a promising future, that wasn't in the cards for her because of the decisions some men made. So, nothing else I want to add. Anything else you want to ask?
Is there anything we didn't ask you that you think is important to this story?
I think we've covered pretty much everything, haven't we? I can't think of. Lori, anything we haven't covered, honey?
No, I think you did great.
Well, thank you so much.
And Lori, I just want to say Lori will miss her sister for all of her life. I think that's it.
Well, thank you so much. I know it's not easy.
You're welcome.